Running 100 miles seems impossible, and maybe even kind of crazy. And it is, but we believe in big crazy dreams. That's why we ran 100 miles. It was such a life-changing experience for us, we decided to devote this podcast to preparing and inspiring you to run your first ultra race.
Are you ready to feel the highest highs and the lowest lows? Are you ready to do what you once thought was impossible? Are you ready for your trail to 100? Thank you for joining me today here on Trail to 100, the podcast made to help you finish your first 100-mile race. My name is Jacob Bateman, and joined along with me today is an ultra running coach, a legend in the field, Ben Light. That's right, we have one of our Pillar of Ultra Running episodes today, and I brought Ben on to talk about how to crew and pace an ultra runner through their first 100-mile race. Now, the reason I chose Ben is an ultra running coach, but not only on top of that, he does a crew for hire business to go along with his coaching. So Ben has been out there crewing and pacing some of the best ultra runners through 100-mile races, through 50-mile races, through 200-mile races, and he's even crewed someone, Mike McKnight, former guest of the podcast, through a 500-mile course through an FKT on the Colorado Trail. He's crewed Mike McKnight on multiple Arizona trails, 500 plus miles there as well. And so I couldn't think of anybody better to talk to about how to properly crew and pace your runner. Now, I made this episode for everyone who's preparing for their first 100 so that you can share this with your crew, with your pacers, and they can better understand how to be ready to help you out. This is also made to help you prepare your crew and pacers. You play a pivotal role in helping them be ready to help you on race day. So a big thank you to Ben Light for coming on and sharing his knowledge. So let's get to it. All right, Ben, thank you for joining me today. I am so excited to talk to you today about this topic. You and Mike McKnight were one of the first ultra runners that I discovered when I started getting into this world. So my first introduction to you was actually attending Mike McKnight's premiere of From Broken to Breaking, where you were his crew chief for the Colorado FKT. And so I'm so excited to now talk to you about being a crew chief and all that entails. So thanks for joining me today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
So Ben, like I said, I've noticed ever since then, as I got that introduction of you crewing Mike through that, what's that, about 500 miles is that trail?
Yeah, the Colorado Trail, roughly, depending on which direction you take, it's all comes down to about that roughly just under 500 miles.
Okay. So that what a I guess endeavor that would be, not only to run it, but to crew that. I can't imagine all the planning that would take. But I guess, I've noticed ever since then how you're constantly out in the community, volunteering, crewing. You're a coach. I see you out pacing your athletes out there on their races. And so I guess the question that first comes to mind for me is, why do you do it, Ben? Why are you constantly out there crewing and pacing and helping all these runners?
Well, one, that's fairly easy. I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. There's nothing more satisfying than helping someone else achieve a lofty goal that's not only just maybe a fitness goal, but most of us in the ultra community understand the life-changing process that happens in our own life as we, dedicate and, do the self-discipline of training and working towards this goal. And you've sacrificed hours of each day, of multiple hours of each week, months. Families made sacrifices, relatives or, close family friends have made sacrifices, whether it's like babysitting the kids or taking extra long sessions on runs and coming back and then putting in work at home and putting work at school, like shifting everything around. So you've invested so much time in the process of achieving this goal. And I, from my experience, also know that it takes just one little issue that could completely make the event implode on itself and cause someone to either have to quit or pull out or not finish in time. And so they've invested all this time. And so with the amount of experience that I have in this sport and knowing all the little things to how to remedy them in the spare of the moment, I can 100% say that I can increase the odds of success by just being there. And it would just, so with a lot of my clients, I mean, if it works out that I can join them on a part of their race, whether it's crewing or pacing, just to help them overcome some of those early obstacles, those early mistakes. Because if you look at a 100-miler or a 50-miler, usually if it's a 100-miler, most people that are going to DNF are going to DNF in that 40 to 60 mile range. Very, very few often. Once they get past like the 70, 75, you start to smell the hay in the barn. And even if an issue arises, unless you're up against like maybe a clock that's going to time out, you can finish that last 25 miles, with maybe a mechanical issue that's flared up and causing you to walk it out. But in those first, 50 miles, there's very important things that need to take place. Plus, that's during the daytime. It's usually the hotter time of the day. So you start to look at electrolytes are probably one of the number one things that really throw people off. If they're out of balance with their electrolytes and getting sick, if they're not fueling properly or on time, because a lot of people, do training runs up to 30 miles and they're familiar that first 30 miles, they've been doing long runs, weekly to monthly leading up to it. So that part, no big deal. It's that 30 to mile 50 or 60 that really things start to unravel. And so as a crew chief or a pacer or a crew member, if I could be there to identify the issue early on, then I can help people be more successful. And there's nothing more gratifying to be able to see somebody achieve and to be a part of that, just as small, and you can feel the energy from that. Plus, being a part of any race community, I love being out there. When you're waiting for your own runner to come in, and another runner comes in and is battling an issue, giving some tidbits, you could kind of eavesdrop on their crew. If their crew doesn't really know what to do, you could say, hey, from my experience, you might try this. And luckily in our community close to home and in, I have a little bit of, people know who I am, I guess you can say. And so it comes off a little bit easier when, with somebody with a reputation, kind of interjects some tips.
Schmo from the street saying,
because I get
think
plenty
you need a Gatorade.
yeah, it's kind of a thing. Or like, here, eat this orange. And then a lot of people don't know that citrus acid can change the acidity of your stomach and then can completely destroy your race because now you're not processing food properly. So there's like little tricks like that, and stuff like that. So I just try, I love it. I found that it's one of my strengths is being able to support other people and to help other people and to observe and, quick to think and to react and to help people succeed.
When I crew and pace someone through 100 miles or whatever distance that might be, especially if it's for their first time, like you just feel fulfilled. So everything you say definitely resonates with me. And with that, I'm just curious of my own sake. Do you prefer crewing or running more?
I don't know. I mean, that's a hard question because I get a lot of satisfaction out of both, but
Yeah.
I do love competing.
Yeah.
I do love running. I would have to say sometimes I feel that the runner has it a lot easier. Um, that, and I wouldn't. It's such a loaded question to even to respond like that, but it's a completely different challenge. Let's say it that way. And there's like this, especially if you are invested in it. Like I tend to get invested with my clients. I get invested when someone hires me to and actually is paying me to be their crew chief or to be a crew member. That's one of my businesses. And so when someone's actually paying for my services, I better deliver what I promise in a way, and I better step up to the task at hand. And there's a little bit of stress involved right there. But from a running standpoint, it's just, I love, it's so easier for me to be in the moment, be present. All I do is just move forward, fuel, hydrate, get to the next aid station, be efficient, keep going, watch my pace. There's like that. But when you're crewing, it's kind of like, one, depending on the race, and if you're not familiar with race, luckily I've been to most races in the immediate area, Arizona to Colorado to Utah and stuff like that, and so all the 200s, that I really am dialed in with, like where the navigating to aid station. But when you go to a newer race that you're not familiar with, it's like you got to make sure you got all your I's dotted and your T's crossed so that you show up on time. You want to make sure you got everything prepared. You want to make sure you got all the gear, the food that they're going to want. And there's not a lot of turn off. Like if you're always on. Me and Mike, we crewed Jovica from Serbia at the Bigfoot 200, and it was just me and Mike. And so what we did was we were basically flip flopping like every aid station that we could access as a crew. We would interchange pacing and crewing duties. So if Mike was out pacing and I leapfrog up with the crew vehicle to the next location, I get everything ready, lay down to get, maybe roughly like an hour, maybe hour and a half of sleep. Mike would run in, knock on the camper. I have a camper for my truck, camper door. I would get up. Mike would go into the aid station, get Jovica like his fuel change, get him something to eat. I'll pop out, put my vest on, walk over, run out with Jovica, and then Mike would get back in, get to the truck. He would basically move to the next aid station, get his stuff all ready to go, and then lay down and get about an hour, maybe 2 hours of sleep. I would come in with Jovica, knock on the door. He would get up, and we'd just do this thing. And we would just do, like, for 200 miles, we each probably paced about 70 miles each. He got he made, first place. He didn't beat Mike's course record, but he got first place. And I know when Mike got done with that, he was just like, oh my gosh, like that beat me up. The whole start and stop, move to the next aid station, little intermittent sleeps. We obviously got more sleep and more rest than Jovica, but even when I used to do that for Mike, I would talk about how tiring it was to pace, crew, and Mike's out there running the entire time. And so for Mike to see the other side of that, he was like, I think that was tougher than actually running the race, is to, to flip flop like that, to on, off for about, 2 days. And so there is definitely some, the stress involved with it, and just to make sure you're on point and you got everything ready and to be efficient, because if it all comes down to who you're crewing to. Are you crewing the front of the pack or the back of the pack? There's two entirely different dynamics. And if you're crewing someone that might be in the back of the pack a little slower, you got to be really concerned about efficiency, because most of the time they want a little bit more time in the aid station, but now you're battling the clock behind you. That's the slow moving clock that's sneaking up behind you. So how much time is too much time, and making sure that they have, everything they need. And the longer they're out there, the more food that they're going to need, the more water they're going to need, the more time. And so that means more weight that they're going to carry. And as you as a pacer, depending on the rules of the race, because there's some races that you can mule for them, so you can carry some of their water to alleviate their weight. And then there's some races you can't do that. So there's a lot of dynamics, in that aspect as well. And so when you're a pacer, you're watching the clock, you're watching the pace, you're watching the efficiency of the runner, making sure they eat, they drink, making sure they're staying on top of their electrolytes, paying attention to everything, watching how they even talk, and making sure they're coherent. Maybe suggesting a dirt nap or not suggesting it. When should we take a little bit of a rest, especially when you come into the 200s and stuff, and how long should you sleep? And then obviously shoes, socks, changing shoes, feet care, muscle care, there's so much in there. There's so much that you're always continuously problem solving, and trying to mitigate issues to make sure that their race is successful.
Yeah, it really is. You talk about the mental stress. It's I like how you really compared that to which one's harder, which one's more tough. Because as a runner, you're focused on one thing, like you said. You're just focused on the task at hand, putting one step in front of the other. But as a crew, you just have so many different moving parts working to try to get that runner across. So I wanted to hit on this a little bit, as this podcast is for first-time 100-mile runners. And I know a lot of first-time 100-mile runners, they're not very well steeped into the ultra world. They're still, meeting people. And I know a lot of them ask their family, who aren't too well versed in the sport, to crew and pace them through that first ultra. Now, I guess, what advice would you have for those family members who aren't big runners, have never been to one of these events before, and they have here's their family member asking them, "Hey, I really would love it if you guys could come help me out this day." What do you think? What advice would you have for them as they get ready to crew and pace their family member?
So this is what I would highly suggest. One, the runner doesn't even have a clue. I mean, he has an idea of what he needs based on his training and everything like that. But the family members don't have anything. What I would do, honestly, there are so many amazing coaches out there that you don't necessarily need to hire. I mean, let's just say hiring a coach is not in your budget. So you've been doing this kind of by braille based something. Maybe you're getting some insight from friends that have ran hundreds and giving you an idea of how much volume you need to be running. And you're kind of going, not through the guidance of a professional coach. But one thing you can do, and it would be an amazing investment, because no matter what, you're investing a lot of money into this goal, especially. And your family is either investing their own time and money by giving up from work, traveling. Either you got hotel stays, restaurant bills and food bills and all this stuff. There is money being invested in here. So investing just a little bit more money, reaching out to a trusted, well-diverse coach that can get on a call with you and your crew. This is something that I do with my current clients, and I've done it with a few friend racers. They'll pay me for, an hour call, and we'll do a Zoom call all together. And basically, you establish a plan. That's the main thing. What I would do is I'd tell that runner to deep dive into they really need to own it and not just run by. I'm all about preparation and planning. And so you basically start some type of a document or a spreadsheet of some sort, just nailing down, okay, start to aid 1, aid 2, aid 3, aid 4. What's the distance? How long should it take me? What pace am I going to do? Depending on how long I'm going to take, how much food do I need? How much hydration do I need? So you kind of like get those like details out. And then when you come into your crew, you're like, hey, crew, this is the crew spots that you could access. And so I'm going to see you here. I'm going to see you here. I'm going to see you here. I have driving directions. Hopefully he or she does the due diligence, like from start to this aid, to this aid, to this aid. And this is the mile marker. I should be there in roughly this amount of time. So this is the time frame. Please be there like an hour and a half early, just in case. I am a little faster than what my splits say. But then let them, and basically tell them what you need, and explain to them, what you would like prepped and stuff like that. Make a list. Be organized. Don't just go give them a bunch of gear bags and download the race manual and give it to them and let them wing it. Like, if you can get on a call with a coach, the coach can actually walk you through like different things to have for foot care. Like, even if you paid the coach to actually dive into the race itself, or he may even know the race itself and if he does familiar with the race, he could say, hey, you got a water crossing at this section. You're going to want to change shoes and socks, soon after, or carry an extra shoes and socks, or, what not, like maybe not shoes, but like socks itself or something like that. And you give them tidbits on what to expect. And so where I'm going with this, go for some professional advice and help. Pay for that hour worth of time with that coach to get on a call and let the crew take their own notes, ask their own questions. And he's probably going to bring up scenarios that they wouldn't even think of because they've never experienced it. And he's going to give them tips on how to help the crew to be more successful. That would be the biggest thing, would be to, hire someone out to help strategize around, their event. Because if they pay that coach, whether it's $100 or $150 for that hour's worth of time, it might be the difference between success and not success.
And as you say that, honestly, from my experiences, that 150 is probably going to get spent last minute at some gas station or whatever, because they were unprepared, and all of a sudden we now need this. Oh, we left this at home. Now we got to go buy this at Walmart real quick and try to fit this in, and the extra gas money. So yeah, you make a great point there. I mean, I haven't ever actually heard of just getting on with a coach for a strategizing session with your crew, but it makes perfect sense as you explain how that can help out. So I wanted to get into a few of your experiences, Ben, with crewing. Do you have like favorite moments that come to mind, or an experience or a race or anything like that, whether you were the one being crewed or you're the one crewing?
So I'll give you a couple stories just to entertain the things that pop out in my mind to your viewer. So you brought up Mike McKnight's from broken to breaking, his for the Colorado Trail. A lot of things in that video you never even saw. So like, one, I have never been to certain parts of Colorado in the Rockies on that trail. So what I was doing leading up to this was obviously establishing where I created points where roads crossed, where I could actually access, and we created what we call like aid station locations in a way. And based on the Colorado Trail, certain blogs, certain websites, information off their book, sitting staring at a map and everything like that. But I've never been there. So I was responsible for navigating and getting there. And some of these locations, I mean, in Colorado, you don't have a lot of cell service. We didn't have Starlink at that time. I was using 3 different forms of navigation. One, the Colorado Trail book that gave information at each kind of major trailhead, and guidance from different directions. I was using Garmin, and one thing about Garmin navigation is I don't think they could tell between a road, a Jeep trail, an ATV trail. Like some of the roads that they would take you on, like you ain't taking anything but a side by side on that trail. And but they would want to navigate you through that. And even Google would do something similar. So once I got cell service, I'd be driving towards the area. Once I even got a bit of cell service, the whole caravan, I'd pull over. They're all following me. I'd pull over, get cell service, put into Garmin, look at what put it in Garmin, look at what Google has to say, and then read the book all at once, trying to figure that stuff out. All this was going on. I was driving a four-wheel drive van that I borrowed from some friends. And I put my rooftop tent on that. And ever since Stony Pass, right outside of Silverton, which is day 2 of the 500 miles, my rooftop tent kept wanting to fall off. Let's say it that way. And so I would be, every stop we make, I was readjusting and tightening bolts. There's a couple of times that the whole entire tent bounced up and landed on the roof. I had to like pull over very carefully to get it situated back on. There was a crazy amount of different, there's times that we got stuck in traffic from the weekend traffic of Colorado. Anybody that lives in Colorado that goes up into the mountains knows what I'm talking about when they talk about the weekend traffic. All of a sudden we're crewing Mike and we have about a 2-hour drive around. He's running 20 miles, which would be about 4.5, maybe 5 hours. And we would pull it, like we would be in stop and go traffic on Sunday, trying to wait to get to where we're going to meet him. And there's a couple times that we pulled in with like 10 minutes before he got there. Like it was insane. Some of the different dynamics. There's a point where I had to like almost 4-wheel drive through the forest on no road to get to the trail, because Google told me that there was a road and there wasn't a road. And so I just started driving through the forest, basically on BLM land, and basically, okay, there's the trail. And we parked right on the side of the trail in the middle of nowhere. Mike had no idea what we had to do. Like it was insane, like some of the things. So like you're dealing with that. I'm still trying to take naps whenever I want. This is a week-long thing where, you know, I'm up longer than Mike goes to bed. I clean things up. I get things prepared. I get up half hour before him to then prep his food, get his bag ready, get his nutrition, make sure that who the pacer that's up next, and then coordinating all the pacing with all these different individuals that I don't know that are pinging and saying, hey, I want to come out and pace Mike. Where do I meet? What time? And trying to meet with their schedules and stuff. So there's a lot going on in the back end that you never even see. And the way that whole experience came together, I think it was just an act of God, that God wanted him to finish that trail the way and how it worked out. It was amazing. Things fell into place, but things were like on the edge of disaster, but miracles happened at the same time. There's things like that. Let me give you another, like as a runner point of view, when I did my Wasatch Tahoe, where I ran the Wasatch 100, took a chartered flight over to Tahoe and ran the Tahoe 200 that started the same time as Wasatch, and I started a day behind the entire event and ran it. I got to the very towards the last section, I was in a complete mind funk about running for 4 days, 300 miles on about an hour and a half of sleep. And I was kind of hitting a really low point. And one of my pacers, you know, like this is a pacing tip, I guess I could say for you guys. Ask yes or no answers, especially when you know that you're, if you're going to even ask a question, it needs to be like a yes or no, no explanation, The brain power on sleep deprivation is so overwhelmingly difficult and stressful and aggravating to the runner, because the runner's just trying to keep it together as much as possible. But one of my pacers, the sweetest, most kind friend, and put in a lot of time pacing me through these 300 miles. I think she was digging deep for like questions, just trying to keep me awake because it was getting to a hard point. Kind of reached into her bag of questions and said, "Ben, tell me about the birth of your firstborn child." And I about lost it. Even though it's such a special moment, your firstborn, like my Natalie and all that stuff like that, I was like it was almost like meltdown in my brain, and I was just like instantly like, I cannot handle that right now. I can't even, I don't, to even bring up that memory in my head and the emotion. I was just like, I almost like lost it. And I'm a very like happy go lucky runner. And that was a kind of a breaking point. So just for those that are listening and stuff like that, just a little tip as a pacer: pacers aren't there to entertain, unless that's what your runner has asked you to do. Like typically when I'm pacing, I'm pretty quiet. Like we're just running. If they need to hear a story, I've had some runners say, "Hey, Ben, can you tell me a story? I'm kind of falling asleep." Okay, let's talk about, let's share an experience and stuff like that. But the pacer's really there for emotional or like support, as in I'm not alone. And then another thing, the next best thing they could be doing is making sure that they're watching time and efficiency, such as are they eating, are they drinking, are they taking their electrolytes, are they on the right path, did they make a wrong turn? You're going to find that when people start to get sleep deprived, and depending, everybody has a different superpower with sleep. Some people are very coherent, even in sleep deprivation. They're very present and they can make critical decisions. And there's some people that really go into a la land of sleep deprivation, and they're almost like sleepwalking, where they're not really paying attention. And I've noticed it from just different people have different strengths and weaknesses. And so if your friend or person you're pacing is having a hard time being coherent, that's going to be something that you're going to want to be aware of, and pop on some music, try to keep them present and awake and moving forward and stuff like that. So, but don't ask them big deep questions, tell them stories, get their mind engaged and stuff like that. So
yeah. How do you, speaking on that, how do you handle the moments where your runner wants to quit, or they've hit that low point and they don't think they can go on? How do you handle that? Because it happens to almost everyone. Everyone gets to that point. As a crew, as a pacer, when you're out there, what goes through your head when a runner starts to talk about calling it quits?
Okay. So there's going to be a lot of factors involved with this, especially because it might be the right decision to call it quits. Yeah. So there's a lot of factors. One, it starts before you even start the race. You need to establish your purpose and your why. Everybody talks about my why. Why am I doing this? So, and that why can obviously shift mid-race. It has multiple times for myself. It has multiple times for some of my clients and everything like that. But what you want to do is get them focused on their why before they even start. You need to understand their why. You need to be aware of it, because that is when things go wrong, then go sideways. And 75% of the time, everybody's battling that little like Jimmy the Cricket on both sides saying quit, keep going, quit, keep going. That's going on in every runner's head, in a way, and a lot of times. So when you get to that point where your runner is starting to go down the rabbit hole, first of all, one, when you have low electrolytes, let me just explain this to your listeners and stuff like that. So electrolytes do more than just muscle like cramping function type thing. Electrolytes are positive and negative ions within the body. When you are low electrolytes, your signals from your brain to your muscles start to get weakened. Your muscles start to get weakened. You get tired. You actually get emotionally depressed. When you're low electrolytes, you can be in a bad funk place. When you increase your electrolytes and you get back to a stable a balance in your body, your attitude will become more positive. Let's say it that way. Positive and negative, just think about positive and negative ions and stuff like that. So fuel has an aspect to the negativity, hydration, electrolytes, your body fatigue, when your body comes out of that. So first of all, is it a chemical imbalance? That basically, like with your electrolytes, is it a chemical imbalance that's making them depressed? Or and that's like not many people, that's why they're quitting. The next thing is probably they're sick in the stomach. Basically, they got electrolytes out of balance, the heat of the day, low calories, now their stomach has shut down. So basically from that point on is they're just uncomfortable, and they're like, and all they're thinking about is, I still have 50 miles left. I feel like death, and I don't want to go another 50 miles feeling like this. And they have to understand that there is hope, that they don't necessarily have to deal with this for the next 50 miles. If we can pull them out of this state and get them eating and get their stomach digesting, they're going to feel a lot better. They're going to have more energy, and they can actually bounce back and have a negative split if everything goes well. So, but they don't see that. They're just overwhelmed with this discomfort, and also they are not happy that their expectations are not being met, what they had, what their goal was. Maybe they had like a sub 24-hour goal, and they can obviously see it slipping away. So what's the point, and so you're going to have to dig through that. The best thing to do is, if you can get them to go just one more aid station, that's like the biggest thing. So obviously this is not taking account for heat exhaustion and on the edge of a medical emergency. That's a different scenario. Like, I've had clients that have been in heat exhaustion, and in all honesty, unless we can get them back into a great shape, going on is putting them at risk, especially if it's not a pacing part. Like, they don't get pacers just yet. So no one has anybody. So you got to make some educated decisions on that aspect as a crew and a pacer. But back to getting them, if they're not in a medical emergency, is just like, hey, let's just go one more. We're going to walk. Okay. And if you're a pacer, I'm going to go walk with you. And what we're going to do is we're just going to walk and eat and drink. And if you need to throw up, in all honesty, I want you to touch the back of your tongue with your finger. And I just want you to puke, because that is the fastest way to reset your stomach. Let's get it out of you. Get that fishbowl belly out. And usually when that fishbowl belly comes out, you can either start running, or you can walk, let it settle, and then start trickling in fluids. It might take 2, 3, or 4 times of puking before your stomach actually finally resets, but it will reset. And you just have to be patient with it, and you have to just continue to move forward. Move forward by walking. If you have a strong hike, during your training cycle leading up to your race, if you practiced your hike and your walk, then you don't have to worry about timing out, because typically most 100 miler timers are right around the 2 mile an hour range, and sometimes even slower than that, depending. But whatever time you have left divided by how much miles you have left will dictate what's your minimum amount of pace that you're allowed to go. And so as long as you're going faster than that minimum amount of pace, you're fine. And usually if you're on the tail end of those cutoffs, it's roughly 2 to 2.5 miles an hour max. And so as long as you have some hiking skills, you're not going to time out. You're going to get your buckle. You're going to finish. You might not be finishing in the same time frame that you wanted, but you're going to finish even if your stomach does not correct itself to the very end. But it's up to you. Like, I'll be like super honest with them. Like, look, are you hurt? Can you walk to the car? Can you walk? I mean, like, is there anything in like you are going to quit and wake up tomorrow and see everybody post on Instagram with their buckle, even the DFL person walking in, or the old, person that's like 65, 70 years old that has like full of grit, that's just gritting out race after race after race. We all see them. They're amazing and inspiring. You're going to see that and say, I guess I could have walked it out, but I chose not to. Like, this is the moment. This is the moment that changes everything. When you get to make that decision, am I going to keep going or keep going? Because when we talked before this race, nothing was going to stop you. Everybody talks about that. No, I'm not quitting. That's the last thing I do. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going. Yes, that was you yesterday. Now where you are today. If they don't have a mechanical issue with like a knee, an Achilles, a hip, like a strain or a meniscus tear, or like all these different that's a entirely different scenario. There's no reason to go into surgery just to finish a 100-miler, or to go into a 6-month recovery process because you wanted to gut it out. You can there's plenty of opportunities for another race if you want to, if you don't want to hurt yourself, stuff like that. We're just talking about discomfort, not meeting expectations, and a mental funk. So if your runner is in that scenario, then it's, you're going to have to be super transparent. And some people respond differently. They respond to love. Some people respond to, some tough love, let's say it that way. So if you know your runner and the way that their brain works and everything, that's going to give you more of an idea of what approach to take with them, encouragement or some tough love and a reality check.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, honestly, as you say that, that's, no pressure on the crew and the pacer, but there is pressure in those moments to help get your runner refocused.
That runner has probably about an 80% chance of finishing that race if he just listens and goes to the next aid station. And in most 100-milers, it might be only like 10 miles. So it's like, and if you're walking a 3-mile-an-hour pace, it's like, hey, don't make a decision right now. In 3.5 hours, when we get to the other aid station, because we're just going to walk and eat, then we can make a decision. And if your pacer is experienced and knows what they're doing, and they start to give them the hydration, start to make them eat like baby bites of food, but trickle it in, trickle it in, trickle it in. And if they can hold it down or throw it up, whatever, but if they can get it in, I'd say in 3.5 hours, they can be a completely different person, and the scenario is completely different. Just make sure that they have enough warm clothes, because if it's at night and they're walking, they're going to be producing a lot less body heat. And make sure your pacer has a little extra as well, just because they're going to be walking slower as well. So but in 3.5 hours, an entire new person can come evolve. And that person's going to be so grateful that you held their hand through the darkness, showed them the light, and they were able to run the rest of the way, cross the finish and feel the gratification of getting it done.
Beautifully said. What would you say to the runner who is hesitant to ask for help from crew and pacers because they don't want to be a burden on others?
Oh man, that's an excellent question, because that happens all the time. Well, you can offer all you want, but they do have to accept it. If I'm talking to the runner, it's like, look, if someone's making a legitimate, not just like, hey, if you need anything, just let me know. No, if someone's like, hey, I'm available that week and I would love to come down and help you out, why wouldn't you do that? Like, if you feel like you're going to need to pay for their whole way, you could be transparent and just say, hey, look, I'd love to have you. I mean, in fact, that would be an honor to have you down there. I want to be super transparent with you. I don't have the funds to pay your hotel bill if I need it. You could stay in with me, but like, just paint the scenario. I don't have money to pay for food and stuff. And I feel bad about that because that's what I would feel like I'd want to do. If they're like, dude, I don't care about that, I want to come help you, take them up on that. Like, it's an amazing experience. Now, if you know that person well enough and you don't want that person's personality around you, then you're going to have to figure out how to just kind of let them down softly. And because I'll also verify, always pick crew with positive attitudes and people that you get along with. If energy is real, if someone is a negative Nancy and is always a negative Nancy, you're going to feel that by tenfold of energy every time you come involved with that person. So I'm really big on keeping my inner circle for my crew small, for myself, because I'm a very energy sensitive person, and I can feel people's negative or angry or discouragement type energies. I want people that believe in me, believe in the goal, believe that we can do it, and is there to their main thing is there to support and to love and to encourage and stuff like that. It's huge. So make sure you're picking out a crew like that. But if you're getting an offer from someone that you respect, that you like, that you would love to have in your corner, you're absolutely crazy. Unless you made a goal to do this race alone, that's an entirely different scenario. Then just be transparent with them. Just say, hey, I really appreciate that. Maybe we could look at the next race. I've actually made a goal. I wanted to do this 100 miler completely solo with drop bags. I wanted to have that experience myself. That's a notable, and a lot of people end up doing that at once or twice in their career and stuff like that. But if they're offering, especially a 200 miler, if someone's offering to come out there, that's a night and day difference, So,
oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah. A crew is a good crew, good help is just as essential to finishing it as almost your training that you put in beforehand. Like you said, it's night and day. So we got to start to wind this down a little bit, Ben. I wanted to ask you, from all your experiences that you've had with crewing and pacing and being in the ultra world, how has that affected your life outside of running? I guess what has that brought into your life? What have you learned? Like, any takeaways from being involved in this capacity that has blessed you outside of the ultra world?
Well, I mean, one, it's my main job right now. So my whole world evolves around ultra running, crewing, pacing, coaching, personal training, strength training. Everything is evolved around fitness and bettering yourself. And when I say that, so let me say this. I have two passions in life: fitness and adventure. And when I got into ultra running over 10, 12 years ago, it was, I realized it was taking my two passions, fitness and adventure, marrying them together. And what I didn't realize, it was going to create a third and more powerful passion, and that was self-empowerment. And so as I've learned that we truly have no limits in our lives, we're the gatekeeper to our destiny. I like to say that it's a Nacho Libre quote from Nacho Libre. It's like, we're basically the gatekeeper to our destiny. And so what I love about this sport is I love seeing, one, how it changes other people's lives for the better. Like, there's a flood of new people coming into the sport and from all walks of life. And you could tell the difference between maybe a newbie from their demeanor and attitude and the way that they approach situations and stuff to a veteran. I think some of the veterans are like more calm, more passive, They kind of like let things roll off their back, like easier. They process challenges differently, because I think through this process of continuing to now, and you might be a 100 miler that just does a 100 miler and then you're gone, one and done. But if this becomes a part of your life, you start to have more empathy towards everyone else around you, because in ultra running, no matter who you pass or who passes you, we're all battling issues within this race, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally. A lot of times you're processing stuff that's going on in your life. Sometimes you're processing physical ailments or issues. And so if you notice, when you come up to a runner, what's the typical greeting? It's like, hey, how are you doing? That is like the standard typical greeting within ultra running. Hey, how are you doing? Do you need anything? Are you good? And what that is we know that when you're 50 miles in, there's a level of discomfort. When you're 100 miles into a 200, there's a level of discomfort. Everybody's battling issues. And so that contrasts out into our own personal lives. If you can take that and understand that life itself is the ultimate endurance race or the ultimate endurance event of our lives, we're all battling issues. And no matter where we are, if it's a happy day, sad day, there's things that we're all mitigating. There's things with relationships with spouses or with relatives or with children or with siblings or with work or our personal selves. Maybe we're battling our own issues, from health to just goals to maybe even mental health, And so if we can approach each other in life, hey, how are you doing? Do you need anything? And you take that same contrast that you would during an event to your life. That's what changes things. And I think I noticed a lot of veterans in this sport kind of, they just get more empathy for people around them and understand that there's so many different, that everybody's on their own journey. And you can't change how somebody acts towards you, but you can control how you respond. And if you respond in a positive or negative way, you have that ultimate self-mastery and self-control. And the more that we're working on ourselves in our own personal lives, just like when we're working towards a goal within ultra running, that strength, emotional strength, the mental strength, all the physical strength, that all contrasts into our daily lives and with the relationships with those that are in our inner circle and those that we come in contact with. And so the biggest thing that I've noticed, it's changed me as a person. And that's why I love getting involved in coaching, because I'm not just helping somebody reach their goal. I'm helping somebody change their life. I'm helping them be a better husband or a better wife or a better brother or a better sibling or son or daughter, a parent. They're just becoming better as humans because they're self-mastering themselves and responding to these challenges within their training that contrast to challenges within our lives. So seeing people change their lives for the better is the most rewarding part of it, and the most rewarding part for myself.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. You talk about empathy, and just to echo off what you said, when I first got into the sport, it was because I wanted to push myself. I wanted to achieve something really hard, do something hard. And I didn't realize how much it would teach me about how to be a more Christ-like individual, just overall. And how much it would teach me about who Christ is and what he would do. We talk about crewing and pacing. I think some of the most spiritual experience I have had in this sport have been when I've been the crew chief or the pacer out there with my runner who's beaten down at mile 80, wondering if they can take another step. And here I am. I'm beaten down too from being out there jumping between aid stations, and now I'm out, doing 30 miles with them. And like in those moments, you talk about empathy. I realize, okay, what does he need? What does he need? And what can I do to help him take those steps to get across the finish? And I realized, like, That's what our Savior would be doing for us if he was physically here. He'd be right there next to us, giving us the pat on the back, giving us an electrolyte drink, saying, hey, eat this, sip on this, and helping us across that finish line, which he does in our everyday life. But yeah, I didn't expect to discover that sort of thing when I jumped into this sport, but honestly, like I came into the sport because I want to do something hard, but I fell in love with it because of everything it teaches you about how to be a better individual.
I mean, just on that note, the scriptures themselves are the race manual, and then you're just got a bunch of different prophets that are sharing their experience with you so that you can understand how to navigate your own race. Yeah.
Amen. Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been honestly one of my favorite conversations. Such a great topic about crewing and pacing. It's one of the best aspects of this sport. So I can't thank you enough for coming on. If our listeners want to reach out to you or hear more from you, where can they find you at?
The best way to find me is Instagram, adventure.your.potential. My profile picture is my logo. That's the number one. DM me. My email address is ultralight007@gmail.com. So just ultralight, LIGHT007@gmail.com.
And we'll have all that put in the show notes below. So thank you, Ben, for coming on today. Can't thank you enough.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
So a big thank you goes out to Ben for sharing his time with us. Man, does he have a lot of knowledge. So what a conversation. That's a conversation I've been wanting to have for a really long time. So thanks, Ben, for coming on and hitting that topic straight on. We could have kept going for another couple hours, but thinking back to my conversation with Ben, I really, really enjoyed when he talked about if you don't have a coach, hire out a coach for 1 hour to help you and your pacers and your crews be prepared for race day. I didn't do that on my first 100. And it was a lot of, last minute things. I need this. I need this. The crew didn't know, kind of what to have everything ready when we came in. It was kind of chaos. It was a self-supported 100. And so it ended up being a lot of chaos. And that $100 that you would spend to bring a coach on and get everything organized and make sure everyone's on the same page and that everything's prepared and checks every box that you could think of. It's a great insight that he has. And also, if you can't, but if an experienced ultra runner, ask that experienced ultra runner, hey, would you hop on a call with me and my crew and my pacers and kind of help conduct it and lead it to make sure that we have everything we need, and not only am I prepared, but that make sure that they're prepared. So anyways, great conversation with Ben. Go check out his website. We have it in the show notes. You can just scroll down below and check him out. Super kind guy. Can't thank him enough for coming on the podcast. And remember, if you want to run 100 miles, make it happen.